Hi there. Oh, I fell over. Um, Hi guys. It's Tuesday evening at 5 o'clock Pacific time, so it's 5 here. Honey is joining me today for class. She's going to be doing headstands with us. We're going to be working on some inversions today, specifically headstands. And I know that it sounds daunting for a lot of us, but headstands are really not as scary as people think that they are. So we'll prepare our bodies for inversions, and inversions are super good for like decompression of the spine. It's the same sort of concept as an inversion table, where you're just stretching out your spine in the opposite direction. You're allowing the blood flow, circulation, energy circulation, all of that to go in an opposite direction, which is really good for detoxifying the body and all that good stuff. So you're going to need a blanket. You're going to need some wall space. So if you can take your mat up to a wall, that would be nice. And perhaps some yoga blocks if you have them. If you don't have yoga blocks, you can use a foam roller or books or something that just emulates a yoga block in some way. So, but definitely you're going to want some wall space and a blanket 100%. So we're going to get started in child's pose. So you'll be on hands and knees. You're going to take your knees out wide, almost as wide as your mat, wider than your hips. Take your toes to touch together. Sit your hips low down onto your heels, and then just walk your hands all the way towards the front of your mat, so much so that you can rest your forehead onto the mat and the forearms and the hands. If you're having trouble reaching and the forehead doesn't come all the way down, you can always place a pillow underneath your forehead. And just let the body sort of melt into the mat here. Allowing your hips to sink low towards the heels. Relaxing the forearms and the hands. And start to focus all of your awareness on your breath. Starting to take some deeper breaths through the nose. Allowing each inhale you take to expand the back of the body, creating space, and allowing the body to melt even further into the mat as you exhale. This is a good time to let go of all the things that you had going on today, everything that you have going on tomorrow. Just not worrying about any of those things, just becoming fully present, fully conscious, and mindful of your body and of your breath and of the space on your mat. Taking a couple more deeper breaths. On your next inhale breath, start to walk your hands over towards the left side of your mat. So much so that your hands are maybe going off of the mat onto the floor. And then stack your right palm on top of the left hand. And then come into that child's pose this way. So we're opening up the right side of your body, creating a lot of length and space in the right side. So we're still in child's pose. Our hands are just over towards the left. You should feel a pretty nice opening in the right side, serratus anterior, the armpit, maybe the upper hip. And taking deeper breaths here. Sending the breath into that right side body. Allowing yourself to relax in this. Take one more deep breath in. And then as you exhale, you're going to start to walk your hands back towards center and then walk them over towards the right side of your mat. So if you can get your hands off of the mat, that's awesome. If not, just take them to the outer edge, and then you're going to stack your left palm on top of the right and then just sink your forehead down into the mat. So this time we're opening up the left side of the body. So each time you breathe, you're seeing if you can send your breath into that left side of rib cage. Couple more rounds of breath. And then very slowly start to walk your hands back to center as you exhale. And then as you inhale, you're going to come back up onto hands and knees into a tabletop position. So in tabletop, our fingers are spread wide, palms are flat onto the mat, shoulders are stacked directly over the wrists. You have a soft bend into the elbows so that you're not locking out the elbows like this, like weird hyperextension. And then the hips are stacked right over the knees. So we're making little 90-degree angles. And your navel is pulling in towards your spine so that you can find like a flatter back here. On your next inhale breath, you're going to start to drop your belly towards the floor. Take your tailbone up towards the ceiling. And then start to pull your collarbones forward, pull your shoulder blades together, and then take your chin up towards the ceiling. So this is cow pose. And then as you exhale, you're going to start to take your tailbone down towards your knees, pull your navel in towards your spine, press into the hands so that you puff up the upper back, and then take your chin into your chest. So we're rounding and curling into cat pose. As you inhale, you're going to take the tailbone high, drop the belly low, pull the collarbones forward, and take the shoulder blades together. Take your chin up for cow pose, And then as you exhale, take your tailbone down, pull your belly into your spine, press into the hands to puff up the upper back, take your chin into your chest for cat pose. Wow, keep messing it up, sorry. And then just make a couple more rounds of these with your own breath, connecting the breath to the movement. So exhaling into cat pose, and then inhaling into cow. See if you can exaggerate the movements of these postures. Really pressing into the hands, into cat pose, and really pulling that collarbone forward in cow. Take one more round on your own, and we'll meet with a neutral spine back in tabletop pose. So here's where you're going to need a blanket. We're going to do some core work. And you're going to place a blanket, hopefully it's a slippery one, at the back of your mat. We're going to place our feet on to the pillows. And we're going to come into two options. You can either take it to forearm plank or high plank. And we're going to start to slide the feet forward so that the knees come into the upper arms or towards the elbows, and then slide it back. And we're going to do this with our breath. So that's like the super key thing here is to make those movements as you breathe. So we're inhaling, sliding out, and then exhaling to slide forward. Inhale and exhale. So we'll do this about 10 times, but I want you to think about that sort of, as you do these, think about that cow or the cat position where you're sort of puffing up into the upper back, and taking your tailbone down towards your heels, right? So think about that movement, that pulling in of the navel, pulling in of the low belly. And we want that movement to sort of come from that low belly core. And those are some really deep abdominal muscles that are really hard to tap into. So it's definitely going to be challenging. So on the forearms, if you're doing this on the forearms, you're just coming here. So same sort of thing. You're just pulling your knees into your forearms. So those two options, just depending on if you have wrist issues and that sort of thing. So we'll get set up in a high plank or forearm plank. Take an inhale breath. And then exhale, drag your knees in. Inhale, straighten. Exhale, pull it in. Inhale, straighten. Exhale, pull it in. Inhale. Exhale, 5. Inhale. Exhale, 6. Inhale. Exhale, 7. Inhale. Exhale, 8. 9. Last one. 10. And then return to high plank. Drop the knees down. And then we're going to come into, move that pillow or that blanket out of the way. We're just going to come into a forearm plank and hold for a forearm plank for about 30 seconds. I know this is challenging, but we're going to do it. So forearms are making the number 11. Start to wiggle your toes backwards so that you can get your hips low. Pull your navel into your spine as much as possible. And then see if you can puff up the upper back. Take your tailbone down towards your heels. And we're holding here. And just breathe. You got about 15 more seconds. You can do this. Keep breathing. 5 seconds to go. And just lower the hips down, all the way down to the mat. Untuck your toes from underneath you. Keep your arms, your forearms as they are. We're coming into Sphinx pose. So arms should still be in that number 11. Shoulders should be stacked directly above the elbows. And then see if you can press your pubic bone into the mat and press the tops of the feet into the mat. So much so that your kneecaps lift off of the mat. And then energetically drag your palms and your forearms back towards your rib cage so that you can broaden at the collarbones and you can pull the chest forward through your arms, through your shoulders. And just keep your chin tucked in line with the same, or on the same parallel as before. And find your breath. Take one more deep inhale breath. And then as you exhale, start to drop your coming back to downward facing dog. You can either press up in the tabletop pose, tuck your toes underneath you, start to straighten the legs, lift your hips, press back to downward dog. Or from here, toes are tucked. You can pull your belly in towards your spine, squeeze your glutes together, squeeze your quads, and then press up to high plank pose, and then downward facing dog. So those are your two options. And then we're meeting in downward dog. So in downward dog, I want your hands to be shoulder width distance apart. Fingers are spread as wide as they go. So no skimping on this one. We want our fingers spread wide. And then see if you can get your ears right in line with your bicep and your gaze back towards your shins. And then really press into the palms to see if you can sort of lift out of the wrists and lift your hips even higher in space. And then see if you can spin your biceps up towards the ceiling and then roll your bicep or your triceps, excuse me, down towards the mat. So that direction that we're spinning is sort of biceps go up, triceps go down. So it's sort of in towards the body and around, or like in and out towards the body. And then see if you can try to sink the heels towards the mat. They don't have to be touching, but see if you can keep a soft bend into the knees as you lift the hips higher
and work your heels down towards the mat. Take one more deep inhale breath. And then as you exhale, you're going to walk your feet up towards the front of your mat. Take your feet hips width distance apart. So hips width distance is about 2 fists in between your feet. And then you're going to bend generously into the knees so that you rest your rib cage on top of your thighs. And then grab opposite elbows and let your upper body just hang really, really heavy here. Let your neck hang heavy, your head, maybe even sway side to side like a rag doll. Just already feeling that decompression of the spine here. Finding those deep, slow breaths. Take one more deep inhale breath. And then as you exhale, you're just going to start to rise only halfway up. So halfway is our hands on our shins. We have sort of this long, flat back, slight bend into the knees, so we don't want to lock out the knees here. And then just take one more inhale breath. And then exhale, press into the soles of your feet. Bend the knees very slightly. Take your hands. As you inhale, you're going to reach the arms up overhead. And then as you exhale, you're going to take your hands together in front of you in prayer and bow forward, hinging at the hips to forward fold all the way down. As you inhale, come up into that halfway lift. So weight should be in the toes, hands should be resting on the shins. We want to have a long, flat back. The crown of your head is reaching forward. And then as you exhale, you're going to fold forward, plant your hands onto the mat, step back into a high plank position. And then 2 options, you can either lower the knees, lower down to the belly, untuck the back toes, lift the chest and the shoulders off of the mat for baby cobra with little to no weight in the palms. So this is really coming from the strength of your back. Press into the tops of the feet, press the pubic bone into the mat. And then you exhale, forehead comes back down, press back into tabletop pose, tuck your back toes under, and then press to downward facing dog. So that's option 1. Option 2, from high plank, shift your shoulders forward, come up onto your tippy toes. Shoulders should be right in line with the fingertips. Start to bend the elbows, lowering halfway to a tricep push-up or chaturanga push-up. Never letting the shoulders dip below the elbows. And then from here, you untuck your toes, straighten the arms to press yourself forward into upward facing dog. So again, we want our collarbones are broad in here. Shoulder blades are pulling together behind us. Tops of the feet are pressing into the mat and kneecaps are lifted off of the mat. And then using the strength of your core, you pull your navel in towards your spine in like cat pose. We're puffing up the upper back to press ourselves back to downward facing dog, flipping our toes along the way. So that's option 2 for your sun salutation. Inhale through the nose. Big exhale out. Start to walk your feet forward to the front of your mat. As you inhale, come into that halfway lift. So long, flat spine, belly's pulling in, weight is in the toes, crown of the head reaching forward. Exhale, forward fold. Hinge at the hips, come all the way down. And then as you inhale, bend into the knees, start to reach forward, pull the navel in towards the spine as you rise all the way up to standing. Arms are still overhead. And then as you exhale, hands come through prayer in front of your heart. Inhale, reach the arms up overhead. Maybe you follow the hands and look up. Take your gaze up. And then as you exhale, start to hinge at the hips and fold forward all the way down. Inhale, come into that halfway lift. Exhale, fold, plant your hands onto the mat. Step your feet back for high lunge and then move through your variation. Either shifting forward, lowering halfway down, or lowering all the way down to your belly. Flipping your toes for upward dog or cobra. And then making your way to downward facing dog as you exhale. Inhale through the nose and exhale out the mouth. Let go a little bit of that heat. Inhale through the nose. Exhale out. Start to walk your feet forward to the front of your mat. As you inhale, come into that halfway lift. And then as you exhale, fold forward. Inhale, rise all the way up to standing. The arms come up overhead. Maybe the gaze follows. And then as you exhale, hands come through prayer in front of your heart. One more time going through that. So we inhale, reach the arms up overhead. Maybe the gaze follows. And then as you exhale, fold forward, hinging at the hips, coming all the way down to forward fold. Inhale, come into that halfway lift. Long, flat back. Exhale, fold and plant the hands onto the mat. Step your feet back. High plank. And then either lowering halfway or all the way down. Inhaling into upward dog or low cobra. Exhaling to downward facing dog. Inhale through the nose. And exhale out. Inhale. And then as you exhale, walk your feet forward to the front of your mat. As you inhale, come into that halfway lift. And then as you exhale, fold forward. This time we're going to sit into chair pose. So you have two options in chair with your feet. If you have knee problems, take your feet about hips width distance apart. And then you're going to sit into a squat-like position for chair pose. If you do not have any knee issues and you're comfortable doing this, take the toes together, the heels slightly apart, and then thighs squeezing together. And same thing, you're going to sit your hips low, and you're going to sweep your arms forward, and then this up as high as you can get them. If you struggle with like keeping we're trying to get the biceps in line with the ears. If that is challenging for you, you can take your arms wide like a V. So like open out wide. That usually helps with a little bit of a shoulder tightness. So we're holding here, and then in chair pose, we want our weight to be all in the heels of our feet, so much so that we can lift our toes off of the mat and wiggle our toes. So we want to be able to look down and see our toes and lift them and wiggle them. Squeeze your thighs together, squeeze your glutes together, pull your navel in towards your spine, cinch your ribs together. So we have a strong core here, strong legs squeezing together, and then arms are reaching forward. Take one more deep breath in, and then exhale, just fold forward, straighten the legs. Inhale, come into that halfway lift. And then as you exhale, you're folding, planting your hands on the mat, stepping back high plank, and then moving through your variation, lowering halfway or all the way down. Inhaling into upward or low cobra. Exhaling into downward facing dog. Inhale, reach your right leg up towards the ceiling from the heel. And then as you exhale, you're going to bend the knee and start to take that right knee towards the right elbow. So we're touching it, right knee to right elbow. Inhale, take it back. Lift your leg high for three-legged dog. And then as you exhale, you're going to take your right knee to your left elbow, so cross it underneath you. Inhale, take it back to three-legged dog. Inhale, this time, take your knee towards your chest in the center. And hold for one breath, inhale. And then as you exhale, you're just going to gently place that right foot in between your hands. Take a deep breath in. And a deep breath out. So you may need some props here. I'm going to take my 2 yoga blocks. This is where you could use books or a foam roller or something to rest your hands on. And we're going to start to straighten the right leg and bend into the right leg. So we're coming into this lunge pyramids like flow, right? So we're just flowing in and out of it. But I want you to see if you can get your back straight here. So that's why I'm using blocks rather than crunching over like I was before. I'm trying to keep a straight back. So as we inhale, we're going to be in a lunge position. And then we're going to exhale and straighten the front leg for pyramid pose. And you notice that my left heel is lifted off of the mat. That's okay for this. Inhale into a lunge. And then exhale, straighten the front leg. And we'll just move through this a couple times. Inhale to that low lunge. Exhale to straighten that front leg. Inhale. And exhale. Inhale. Exhale out. One more time. Inhale. And then exhale. Inhale, bend into the knee. Remove those props out of the way. You're going to frame your front foot with your hands. And then using the strength of your low belly, you're going to take that right foot and you're going to come right back where you started from knee to chest, right? So we're going to sort of press into the palms and pull your navel into your spine to lift up your foot and take your knee into your chest. And then as you exhale, you're going to place it back for high plank. We're going to lower down onto our forearms for forearm plank. And we'll just hold here for a few breaths. Inhale through the nose. Exhale out the nose. Take one more breath here. And then exhale, lower the knees. You're going to press up onto your hands. And then keep your back toes tucked. Just straighten the legs and come back to downward facing dog that way. There's a couple options getting out of a forearm plank. You can go right up into high plank again, but just to keep our shoulders protected, we're going to lower the knees first. So take one more deep breath in and deep breath out. Inhale, lift your left leg up towards the ceiling with from the heel and the inner thigh. As you exhale, you're going to bend that left knee and take your left knee towards your left elbow. Inhale, take it back to three-legged dog. Exhale, take your left knee to your right elbow, so crossing it underneath you. Inhale, take it back to three-legged dog. And then exhale, knee to chest. Hold here for a breath. And then as you exhale, you're going to gently place that left foot in between your hands. Grab your props if you have them. And we're going to start moving in and out of that lunge pyramid pose flow. So inhale through lunge. And then exhale, straighten that left leg. Try to keep your back as straight as possible. Inhale to lunge. Exhale to straighten. See if you can lead with the chest. So like somebody has a string attached to your sternum and is pulling you forward from that string. Inhaling and exhaling to straighten the leg. So we're just warming up the hamstrings and the hips a little bit. Couple more rounds. Exhaling to straighten. Inhaling to lunge. Exhaling to straighten. And then inhaling to lunge. Remove the props out of the way. Place your palms to frame your left foot. And again, we're going to start to press into the palms so much so that we puff up the upper back. Pull your navel in towards your spine. And then see if you can use that low belly core muscle to lift the foot off of the mat and pull your knee into your chest. And then step it back to high plank, lower onto your forearms for forearm plank. And we'll hold here for 5, for 4, for 3, 2, and 1. Just lower the knees, press back onto your hands, and then you're going to straighten the legs to come back to downward facing dog. Inhale through the nose, and exhale out. Couple more breaths. Inhale, and exhale out. One more breath. Inhale, and exhale. Inhale, lift your right leg up towards the ceiling. And then exhale, take your right knee to your right elbow. Inhale, take it back for three-legged dog. Exhale, take your right knee to your left elbow, cross it underneath you. Inhale, take it back to three-legged dog. Exhale, take your knee into your chest. Hold here for a breath, inhale. And then exhale, gently place that right foot in between your hands. Grab your props if you have them. Take an inhale breath into that lunge. And exhale to pyramid, straighten that front leg. Inhale to lunge. Exhale, straighten the leg. Inhale. Exhale, straighten. Inhale. Exhale, straighten. Inhale. Exhale, straighten. Last one. And then inhale for the low lunge. Remove the props out of the way. You're going to frame your front foot with your hands. Press into the palms. Puff up the upper back. Pull your navel in towards your spine. And lift that foot up. Lift the knee into the chest. And then step it back for high plank. Lower onto your forearms for forearm plank. And we're holding for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Lower the knees, press back onto your hands, and then just press back into downward facing dog, straightening out the legs. Inhaling through the nose, exhaling out. Inhale, lift your left leg up towards the ceiling from the heel and from the inner thigh. Exhale, take your left knee to your left elbow. Inhale, take it back for three-legged dog. Exhale, take the left knee to your right elbow, cross it underneath you. Inhale, take it back for three-legged dog. And then exhale, taking your knee into your chest, hold for a breath, inhale. And then as you exhale, gently place that foot in between your hands. Grab your props. Take an inhale breath in lunge. Exhale, straighten the left leg. Inhale. Exhale, straighten the leg. Inhale. Exhale. One more time, inhale. Exhale, straighten the leg. Inhale, come into that lunge, move your props out of the way. Press your palms into the mat to frame your front foot. So much so that you press into the upper, or press into the palms to puff up the upper back, pull your navel into your spine to lift your foot, lift your knee into your chest. And then press it back, or take it back to high plank. Lower down onto your forearms. I know we keep doing this, but I promise it's beneficial. And we're holding for 5, for 4, for 3, 2, and 1. Drop the knees, come up onto the palms of the hands, and then straighten the legs, press back into downward facing dog. Deep breath in through the nose. And deep breath out. Inhale. And then as you exhale, start to walk your feet forward. Inhale, come into that halfway lift. And then exhale, fold forward. Inhale into chair pose once again. So we're coming into that seated chair position, right? So either feet are hips width distance or they are toes touching and heels slightly apart. Weight is fully in the heels, so much so that you can lift your toes, sit your hips low, pull your navel into your spine, take your tailbone down towards your heels. See if you can work your thumbs backwards. See if you can pull your shoulder blades down your back. Take one more deep breath in. And then as you exhale, fold forward, straighten the legs. Inhale, come into that halfway lift. And then exhale, we're folding, placing the palms onto the mat, stepping back for high lunge, lowering halfway or all the way down. Inhaling to upward dog or cobra. Exhaling back to downward facing dog. Inhale, reach the right leg up towards the sky. Exhale, take your right knee to your right elbow. Inhale, back to three-legged dog. Exhale, right knee to left elbow. Inhale, take it back. Exhale, take your knee into your chest. Inhale here. Exhale, place that right foot in between your palms. Inhale into a low lunge. Exhale, straighten the right leg. Inhale, lunge. Exhale, straighten. We're just doing this 3 times. So inhale, last one. Exhale, straighten. Inhale, low lunge. Frame the front foot with your hands. Puff up the upper back. Pull your navel into your spine and take your knee into your chest. Release that foot. Exhale, step it back. High plank. Then this time we're going to lower into the forearms, but we're not holding forearm plank. Start to walk your feet up towards your elbows, while at the same time dropping your chest, pressing into the palms and the forearms to push your chest backwards to see if you can get your ears in line with your biceps. So it's the same sort of motion as downward facing dog, but we're just on our forearms. So walk your feet in any amount. So it may just look like this, right? So we're in like this pike forearm position. It's called dolphin pose. But we want to see if we can push our chest through and back towards our shins. And this is a lot of shoulder opening. So keep pressing into the forearms and into the hands. Press out of the hands and out of the forearms. Maybe you walk your feet in a little bit further. Every inch you walk further, see if you can press your chest back towards your shins. Shakes are okay. I'm totally shaking already. Take one more deep breath in. And then as you exhale, walk your feet out, drop your knees, and then just sit back into this modified child's pose where your knees are just together, right? So you're not taking your knees wide. And just let your arms hang out in front of you, releasing that. Take a deep breath in through the nose. And a deep breath out. Deep breath in. And deep breath out. Come back onto hands and knees. Tuck your toes underneath you. And then straighten your legs for downward facing dog. Inhale, lift your left leg up towards the ceiling. Exhale, left knee to left elbow. Inhale, take it back for 3-legged dog. Exhale, left knee to right elbow. Inhale, take it back, 3-legged dog. Exhale, knee to chest, hold. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, plant the foot in between your hands. Inhale for a lunge. Exhale, straighten the left leg. Inhale, bend the left knee. Exhale, straighten the leg. One more time, inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Place the palms back onto the mat to frame your front foot. Puff up the upper back. Pull your belly into your spine to lift that foot up. Press your knee into your chest. And then take your left foot back to meet the right for high plank. We're going to lower down into the forearms and come back into that dolphin pose. So the forearms are at a number 11. Start to walk your feet forward any amount as you drop your chest back towards your shins and drop your head in line, or your ears should be in line with your biceps. So my head is completely in between my arms right now, and I know that this is not attainable for everybody, but that's the direction that you want to be going in. And the way that you achieve this is by pressing into the palms and the forearms, pressing out of them and away, right? So the more that you press into the forearms and the hands, the further you can push your chest back. Obviously, you don't want to injure yourself here, but know your limit. Maybe you walk your feet in another inch. Take a deep breath in through your nose. And then as you exhale, start to walk your feet back out, lower the knees. Come back into that modified child's pose. Arms are just reaching forward. Deep breath in. And deep breath out. Deep breath into the nose. And take a deep breath out. Okay, so we're going to start to practice this headstand now. I want you to get your mat up to a wall. And I'm going to pretend like there's a wall right in front of me. So
the reason why we use a wall is so that when we fall, we're falling into the wall, and it's just protecting. It's sort of like not only is it like it's more peace of mind than anything. I still use the wall when I'm practicing any sort of inversions. The only one that I don't is headstand, because I've been doing it long enough that I'm comfortable in the center of the room. But and if you are comfortable in the center of the room, then by all means don't use the wall. But for those who are still practicing and still trying to get it nailed down, I highly recommend going against the wall just for your own peace of mind. So I'm going to pretend like this blanket is the start of the wall. And I'm going to clasp my hands together like this. And I'm just going to release one of my pinky fingers. So sorry, let me come closer so you can see this. So your hands are clasped together, but I have one pinky that's released. And what this allows you to do, so we're essentially taking our head and we're cradling it with our forearms, right? So this is sort of the place that you want to be in a headstand. So you'll notice that my head is sort of right where my forearms are, right? And then rather than having I want you to practice doing this at first. Rather than having your shoulders sort of pulling up into your ears, practice taking your shoulders down your back and away from your ears. So rather than shrugging them up, we're pulling them down. And then you have your hands clasped together like this with one pinky released. And what that allows you to do is if you fall, you're not like rolling under your wrists or like breaking your fingers. The pinky actually helps break the fall, which is kind of a weird thing, but it is what it is. So again, we want our elbows are pulling together as much as possible. So rather than being like this, we want our elbows together, and we want, rather than our shoulders in our ears, pull your shoulders away from your ears like this. So hands are clasped, pinkies are, one pinky is released, okay? So you're gonna come up to the wall. Yeah, okay. And you're gonna take your hands, right, your fingertips are almost right to the wall, right? So I have my hands clasped, one pinky is released. Right now I'm just on my knees, and then I'm gonna start to put my head down. One thing before we go into this one more time. So think about the crown of your head. Take your thumbs on the top of your earlobes, and then take your middle fingers and cross them sort of on top of your hand, or on top of your head. So leave one hand there, and then take your thumb and your pointer finger and sort of draw a line toward, like, from like the tip of the nose down the center of your forehead and back. So thumb and the pointer finger. Where your pointer finger is touching your middle finger, that is the connection. That is where the top of your head should be rested on the mat. So it's not like it's like a little bit farther forward, not far back, not on the very center of the top of your head. It's a little bit farther forward. So this part of the skull seems to be a little bit more padded and protected. So, but the thing about headstands is that we're not putting all of our weight into our head. It's just serving as a balancing point. Most of the weight is going to be on our forearms, with the head just serving as a balancing point. So that's something that I want to make really, really clear here. With a headstand, you are not resting on your head. If we rest all of our weight on our head, and you've probably seen this in like these crazy yoga Instagrams where people are literally standing on their heads, you're fully compressing your cervical spine there, and that is not good, like, at all. So we do not want to compress the cervical spine or the what is that called? Right at that your base of your skull. We do not want to compress that. So that's why we want most of the weight. That's why we've been practicing those forearm planks, sorry, and the dolphin, because I want you to get used to putting most of your weight into your forearms and only using that top of your head as more of a balancing point. So now that I've said my spiel, take your forearms onto the mat, clasp your hands, and release the pinky toe, or the pinky, one of the pinkies.
And then you're going to take your knees back. So you're sort of in this tabletop position on your forearms. And then start to cradle your head in between your forearms. Tuck your back toes under, straighten your legs, and you're going to start to walk your feet forward. So we warmed up the hamstrings here because I want you to see if you can walk your feet as far back as possible so that you can get your hips above your shoulders. So for now, we're just going to practice, and we're just going to practice sort of walking up and down, walking our feet back and forth. And the whole time, I want you to think about pressing into the hands and the forearms, and practice, while you're here, practice lifting the head off of the mat. Okay, so little to no weight in the head. And then we're just going to practice walking our feet up and back. Just getting used to that concept of coming onto you can even like shift forward and back on your toes. Just trying to see if we can get our hips above our shoulders, right? So that's what we want to be. That's the entrance point of where we want to get into the headstand. We want most of the weight on our forearms and our hands. And we want our hips to go over or close to over our shoulders. So once you're here, so you can rest at any time, by the way. Once you're here and you sort of, like I'm completely on my tiptoes right now. I'm going to start to bend one knee at a time and just practice taking my knee up. So knee into the chest and knee up. And then I'm going to switch my legs, take the left knee in, and practice just taking the left knee up, keeping the knees bent at first. And then again, you can rest at any time, coming back into child's pose for a moment. So that's the second part of this. You just sort of practice that feeling of taking the knee into the chest. And then when you feel like you are ready, you can try both knees into the chest. Or you take one knee into the chest and start to lift one leg off of the mat. That's a little bit harder, but the goal is to engage the low belly core here. That's what we've been working on throughout the class, right? So when you're taking your knees into your chest, think about when we were doing those sort of mountain climbers, when we were taking our knee into our chest in plank. It's the same thing, but we're just inverted. So we're walking your knees in, and I'm taking my knee in my chest, compressing into the hip flexor, and I'm pulling my low belly in towards my spine. So then eventually, you can take both of your knees into your chest, start to take your hips backwards behind you, and then maybe you straighten the legs. And then the legs are pinned straight here, right? And at first, what this may look like is you just kicking your knees up and your legs up, and that's totally fine. But I want you to think about using the strength of your low belly to like really control the movement of your body, and really like we essentially want mountain pose. So when we're in like our sun salutations and we're standing up straight, the concept of taking our tailbone towards our heels, pulling your navel in towards our spine, pulling our ribs together, shoulders are away from the ears. That strong sort of center of our body is what we want to have in a headstand as well. So rather than letting your like back dip like this, see if you can pull your low belly forward, take your hip bones forward and up, and take your tailbone down towards your heels, right? So it's that rather than like being like this and letting our like just whatever's happening with our spine, see if you can pull everything nice and tight inwards, okay? And that's coming from that low belly core. So again, walk your feet forward, maybe take one knee in, and then maybe you just practice like coming up onto your tippy toes. And then you take both knees in maybe. And then maybe like you take your feet to the wall, right? And then you can walk your feet up the wall from here. So that is also an entrance point as well. And the whole time, I want your shoulders away from your ears. And like even you can practice like just these mini little micro lifts, lifting your head off of the mat. Like you can kind of see, I was just doing that, lifting my head off of the mat, because I want you to remember that this is coming from the forearms with
only the head as balance. So let me check the time. Okay. So you can practice that for another minute, or if you're ready, we're going to cool down. We're going to come into child's pose. So I recommend like playing with this in your own time. Like if you're like bored or like, oh, I'm gonna try the handstands, like or headstands. Bring your mat to the wall because practice makes perfect, and work on low belly core too, because that's like a really key component in all inversions, like upright inversions. Headstand, pincha, which is forearm stand. That's when you're like fully like this and you're going up that way. And then handstand, right? So the low belly is like a key component in all of those postures, and a strong back too. So dolphin pose, when you're here, this is a really good one to work on back strength. And like I even like, for example, I'll do like these like dolphin push-ups where I'll come and I'll bring my chin down with my thumbs and press myself back. That's another sort of just like a drill essentially that you can do to build strength for any sort of inversion. So anyways, just practice when you can, but this is sort of that's like the guide that I want you to remember is that you want it to come from your forearms. You don't want it to come, or the strength to come from your forearms and the low belly core. So we will meet in child's pose. So take your knees out wide. Actually, no. We're going to meet in tabletop pose, and we're going to do pigeon on both sides to just release a little bit of hip stuff. We haven't been doing that all day. So you're going to take your right knee and you're going to drag it. So we're in tabletop position right now. Start to drag your right knee towards your right wrist, and then start to take your left knee and your left foot and drag it backwards to straighten it out a little bit. And then you should now have room to take that your right foot across your left knee and start to sort of wiggle it forward towards your left wrist. But you just want to get it to a place where your right heel is in line with your left hip bone. So in order to make that happen, you may need to slide that left leg back even further. So this is pigeon pose. I think the safest entry in pigeon. And you notice that we don't have our leg is like parallel, right? We have it at an angle. And that really is going to help us. It's going to help protect the knee. It's going to help us get into a little bit of a safer form of this. So keep your right foot flexed and then check down to make sure that your left heel is pointed straight up to the ceiling, not like coming out to one side or the other. And then you're going to start to walk your fingertips a little bit farther back to get yourself a little bit upright to start. Take a deep breath in. And then as you exhale, you're going to walk your hands forward. So you can come onto a prop. You can place your forearms on a prop, onto the mat. You can stay upright. But anywhere you want to go with this pigeon pose, we're just going to hold here for a few breaths. Allowing the outer hips to release. And just take one more deep breath in. And then as you exhale, you're going to start to walk your hands back towards your knee. Tuck your right toe or your left toes underneath you. Lift your left knee off of the mat. And then again, we're going to press into the hands, pull the belly into the spine to lift the knee up, and then just take it back into high plank, then lower the knees down. If you'd like to just make some circles with that right hip to just release that, that's available for you as well. Then we're going to start to drag the left knee towards the left wrist, and then drag the right knee and the right leg backwards. Then see if you should have some room now to start to wiggle that left foot forward towards your left wrist, and get it to a point where you can get your left heel right underneath your right hip bone. And if you need to move that right foot back, that right leg back a little bit further, you might need to do that. Just keep that left foot flexed. So pull the toes back, keep the left foot flexed. We don't want it pointed at all. And then come up onto your fingertips for just a moment. Take a deep breath and make sure that your right heel is pointed straight up towards the ceiling. And then as you exhale, you're going to walk your hands forward, come into your variation of this sleeping pigeon. So you could stay upright if you want. You can come up to forearms on a block, onto the mat, all the way down, and it's totally up to you. It's really important here not to push yourself too far in this position. Like I definitely have hurt my hip in the past before I was really sort of aware of my body. So it's really, really important in this pose to not overdo it and just go like right before your limit and just let your body sink into it. And rather than like pushing yourself farther, don't keep readjusting yourself to get farther into it. Just come to your limit and just stay there and breathe. Because this is a pretty deep stretch. And yeah, I've definitely hurt my hip here before. So just be careful in this one. It's the ego, you know, you get this ego like, oh, I should be going deeper into this pose, but like, there's no need for that. Like you're not trying to, no one's even paying attention, you know, like, especially when you're in a classroom environment, like you think that everyone's watching you, but like everyone's worried about themselves, right? So no one's paying attention. So that's the lesson of the day. Don't let ego get in the way of your yoga practice. Don't let it become a competition. So very slowly, we're going to start to come back onto hands and knees. Sorry, up right on our hands. Tuck your right toes underneath you and lift that right knee up. And then using the strength of your low belly, pull the knee in towards your chest and then press it back to high plank. And then we're going to just come down onto our knees and come down to our back. So swing your legs around in front of you. And you want some pillows nearby, 2 pillows to be exact. You're going to come all the way down to your back. And then bend your knees. Take the soles of your feet together and let your knees open wide. So we're kind of in this like butterfly position. And then take those pillows or whatever props that you have and just place them underneath your thighs. So rather than letting this be like a deep opener, we just want this to be a little bit more passive. And then take your right hand on top of your low belly and then your left hand over your heart. And just feel your breath rise and fall through your body. And then from here, we have an option to get another pillow or another prop. Hi, honey. Hi. Oh my goodness. Yes, come snuggle with me. Oh. Sorry, a brief moment to cuddle. Brief interlude. Hi, Buttercup. Oh my gosh, you're so cute. Oh. Okay, so if you would like, an option here is to lift your hips off of the ground. So keep your feet as they are, your knees as they are. Lift your hips off of the ground and then slide another pillow underneath your sacrum. So this is like the bony part right of your like low back. It's like in between your tailbone and your lumbar spine. So it's that bony part of your pelvis. And you can keep your knees as they are and soles of the feet together. So this is just a little bit deeper of a release here. It should feel pretty nice after all that we just did. And make sure you're breathing deeply in and out the nose. And then very slowly, you're going to take your hands on the outer edges or your outer thighs and start to close your knees together. And then take your soles of your feet flat onto the mat. Lift your hips up and remove that prop from underneath you and slowly lower your tailbone all the way down. Take your arms out wide like a T, and you're just going to drop your knees towards the left. Maybe you stack them on top of one another to get a little bit of a deeper stretch. If you feel like your right shoulder is lifting off of the mat, just put a pillow underneath your knees. And just allow this twist to come from the spine and not really from the shoulders, right? So you just want it to be a nice release. And if you feel like your neck will feel good by doing this, if your neck allows it, you can turn your gaze to face your right fingertips. Come here. Come here. Please. Oh, their arms around my neck. And then very slowly start to draw your knees back to center. And then you're going to drop your knees to the right, allowing the body to twist in the other direction. If your left shoulder starts to lift up, just place a pillow underneath your knees. And breathe here. If you want to turn your head to face the left fingertips, you can do that as well. Something smells like macaroni and cheese.
Mac and cheese?
I keep smelling it. Someone's cooking mac and cheese, I swear.
Yum.
It smells,
Find out.
it smells so good. I love mac and cheese.
I love mac and cheese.
And then very slowly start to take your knees back to center. Sorry, it's dinner time here, people. And then just take your legs straight out in front of you. We're coming into our final resting pose. So your legs are straight, arms are open out wide next to your sides, palms are facing up. See if you can lift your tailbone off of the mat and pull it underneath you so that you're resting more on your sacrum. And then same thing with your shoulders. Lift your shoulder blades off of the mat and pull them together underneath you so that you're more broad in the collarbones. And just allow your whole body to relax. Closing the eyes, allowing the jaw to relax, removing the crease from your brow, letting the tongue settle in the back of your throat. And just letting go of any tension or any gripping that you're holding onto in your body. And just enjoy this final resting pose. Letting go of the breath, finding a nice, easy, slow breath. And just stay here as long as you'd like, for at least 5 minutes for sure, but as long as you want. Oh my gosh. I'm just gonna mute the video and shut off the camera, but it'll still roll. So just, again, stay here as long as you like and enjoy this last pose. And thank you so much for joining.